Hey there, language lovers. I'm Coach Muzie, a nickname some folks have started calling me lately, and I'm thrilled to share with you a Portuguese interrogative statement that I've prepared as a demonstration of what we can enjoy together while learning Portuguese. Onde estão meus amigos? Because I'm looking for my friends to learn Portuguese with me. Remember, I did mention in my previous video that we all need to consider learning a new language so that we can encourage the development of new dendritic tissues and synaptic material in our heads, allowing our brain to reorganize itself. That process called neuroplasticity. So, this statement, Onde estão meus amigos? It means where are my friends in English. Like when your friends are late for pizza night. If you've ever done that, anyway, you'll understand. So, as someone who has been doing Portuguese for a long time, I'm going to try to break this down word by word. Try to simplify it so that you can also understand. And we want to help you to sound like a native. You can. Myself, I have a lot of problems, speech problems. So they prevent me from achieving that optimal pronunciation. But at the end, we're going to take onde and compare it to cadê. Onde is one Portuguese word, but this sounds like a synonym, but it's super chill and casual. Cadê. As you know, learning a new language leads to a number of slip-ups along the way. So I'll share a few stories. The intention is to help you guys to know that if you take up language learning, you will mess up, but it is best to laugh at yourself and move on. We've chosen to use Brazilian Portuguese pronunciation because it is smooth and beachy, that beachy vibe. It's easier for one to perfect it to the point of sounding like a local. I've spent a lot of time on the introduction. Now let us do this. With me, please say, Onde estão meus amigos? Onde estão meus amigos? You raise your voice at the end like you're hunting for your crew. Remember, it's Brazilian pronunciation we're trying here. Soft vowels, that light tap on the R so you can sound like them. Somebody who's just chilling at a cafe in Rio de Janeiro. Okay, let's take the first word in this sentence. It is word. But in Brazilian and other Portuguese, it is onde. So for pronunciation, think of the first syllable, on, as the English word on, but quick. And then think of the second syllable, there, as then or that, without the N, of course, and the BNT in that. But you just have to keep it light with a tiny nasal hum on the end, like when they do when grooving to samba in Brazil. So let's do it. Onde. Onde. It means where. It is used for studying questions about locations. Like in our interrogative statement, where are my friends? But you should note this about onde. In Portuguese, it is super versatile. It's a total go-to word in the sense that you might find it in a sentence, but the meaning being different from where. Sometimes it means in which. Here's an example. A cidade eu moro. A cidade onde eu moro. What it means, the city where I live. How do you pronounce it? Cidade onde eu moro. That is cidade with a soft J, like jeans, and moro with a tapped R. So, it's been a long journey for me. I'm glad it's coming almost to an end now. Learning Portuguese. Early in my Portuguese journey, I needed the bathroom, at a cafe. I was supposed to say, Onde está o banheiro? Which is, where's the bathroom, of course. But instead, I said, Aonde está o banheiro? Then this guy started laughing. And he pointed to the restroom. And he said to me, not far, you will make it. At the time, I was confused. But I've since learned that Portuguese uses onde for places you are at, like where are you? Onde você está? But they employ another form of the same word, aonde, when talking about static places. So, I just confused that. I was supposed they use onde for static places, places you are at, against aonde for motion. Like when you say, where are you going? In Portuguese, aonde você vai? Aonde você vai? Yet English just uses where for both, whether it is static, locations, or motion, it is just where. It is simpler in English. That's why I always tell my Portuguese students that it's easy learning English. But the thing about Portuguese, it is precise. Yeah, most times you won't find yourself asking yourself what was meant here because it is precise. But in casual Brazilian chats, onde might cover both, but formally use onde for motion, onde for static places. Mistakes like mine? Don't be put off by that. They are part of the fun. Just laugh and keep moving, keep going. Here's another thing to note about Portuguese. When you compare it to English, it does not always flip words, like English questions to the verb and the noun, trading places, no, or the verb and the subject. Instead, the verb, it's got all the info. Okay, you're asking yourself, how does this work? Let us take our first verb. It's estão. Estão. It's pronounced estão. Take the word yes in English, drop the Y, S. Ta. The word town in English, but you nasalize it a bit so that it sounds like song. Estão. And then the last syllable, estão, like the double O in book, estão. But that double O is so Brazilian. Try to hum it through the nose, like on, estão, estão. It comes from the verb root estar, meaning to be. But it's used for temporal stuff. The verb to be for temporal stuff, like where your friends are right now. Mine, they are probably in the playground where we play football to keep our bodies healthy. And then note that Portuguese has two to be verb. So we have this one we've just met, estar, and then there's another one, ser. That one is primarily reserved for permanent traits. So the other one is for temporary stuff, the other one is for permanent stuff. So you don't have to confuse the two. So when I'm talking about my friends, I'm saying my friends are at the park. Hey, now I'm trying to pronounce even park in Portuguese. I would say, meus amigos estão. Oh, is it estão? No pa quê? Estão no pa quê? Yes, I will say that because estão is taken from estar, and it's a verb to be reserved for temporal stuff. They're at the park just temporarily, and they will move out. So I am correct, even though I'm second guessing myself. So meus amigos estão no parque. But say I am talking about their nationalities. Meus amigos são brasileiros. Meus amigos são brasileiros. Notice that now, instead of using estão, I've gone for são, which is derived from the second to be verb, which is ser. I am using it because now it is referring to a feature of my friends that doesn't change, their nationality. So it's going to present you with a bit of the challenge because you speak English. English uses are and lets the context sort itself out. But when it comes to Portuguese, you have to choose whether to use ser for permanent places or estar for temporal situations. It is awesome in Portuguese, but it's tricky and can trip you up like it did with me. Okay. Maybe you'd like to know. Here's another proof from my journey of Portuguese learning. I'm invited at a friend's party. Hey, that day I was just wiped out. So I'm telling my host that I am very tired. This is what I said. Eu sou cansado. So is a conjugated derivative of ser. And ser is reserved for permanent traits. So what am I saying really when I say eu is I, eu sou cansado, tired? I am telling this person that I am permanently tired. I am a tired person. And then my host offered me a permanent nap. Permanent nap, very akin to death. What was I supposed to do? Yeah, he did jokingly, but I messed up. So I was supposed to say, eu estou cansado. I am tired now. Eu estou cansado. Yeah, the host, I made him laugh. Yeah. Because he was seeing a person who was about to make his bed forever. But do not be disappointed when people laugh. Laugh with them. You're learning. So always double check está versus ser. Plus, estão tells us they without saying it, like unlike in English, where we always mention they are. So estão simply removes the need to tell us about the subject, they, or the person. When it comes to questions, they don't use do. They simply use onde, estão. Nice and easy. So I'm encouraging you, try it so that you can experience those mix-ups, and then you are able to resolve things. And then later you tell it. It is a great story. So if you're one of my friends, really, really consider contacting me so that we can learn Portuguese together. Then the third element of the sentence is meus. In English, my. But let's start with the pronunciation, meus. Think of the month May and the word oops. Then try connecting the two, dropping the P in oops, meus. And the stress is on the first syllable, which is May, meus. It's my in English. But there's something strange. Did you see the strange thing about meus? It is in the plural. Yet in English, my never assumes a plurality. My friend, my friends, it doesn't change. But in Portuguese, it changes. Why? It has to agree. This possessive has to agree with the noun, which is amigos. We're still going to talk about amigos. In fact, it's the last element we're going to do today in this sentence. But now, if you have a plural noun in the sentence, it influences everybody in that sentence. So it's like this very powerful neighbor who influences everyone in a community. The community here being the sentence. So, meus amigos. It is masculine and it's plural. So remember, I've tried to say it in different ways. Portuguese makes these words match the thing you're talking about, not you. So one guy friend is meu amigo, meu amigo. But female friends are minhas amigas, minhas amigas. So it doesn't change in English, but always know Portuguese nouns, they come with gender, and amigo is masculine. So you pick meus. If it was amiga, you will pick minha amiga. Now, my friend, I want you to know this. It's very interesting. You know, even if you have a mixed group of friends, so maybe, for example, 49 guys and one lady, it is amigos. Amigos. Some people feel that it is not inclusive, but once there is a male in the group, then everything takes the masculine gender. The last element is, of course, the noun, the powerful neighbor who influences everybody in this community. How do you pronounce amigos? The stress is on the second syllable. It has 3 syllables, amigos. The stress is on the second one, amigos. You break it down like this. You take the A in father, you take the me in English, and then the last part is like goose in goose, the bird, with a soft G. So it's amigos, amigos. This means friends, plural of amigo. It is the subject, but we don't need they because estão already says it's plural. Mixed groups, remember, it's amigos. It's a Portuguese thing. I understand they now try to come up with variations of this word so that they can make it neutral, like in English, gender neutral, in other words, like in English, but that's something for another day. Remember, it is friends in English. English is better, is easier, not better, easier, because it doesn't make you worry about gender. But Portuguese is more specific and precise when it comes to speaking. Remember, like that powerful neighbor, Portuguese gender rules hit everything. Adjective, possessives, even the, which is an article, takes the gender of the noun and the number, of course, not the honor. So it's unlike what we do in English. But there are times when Portuguese drops the article, like in English, but in Portuguese, it is more flexible. I don't know. I think I've covered everything in this sentence, the interrogative statement that we're using to demonstrate how we can actually learn Portuguese together. But this was just for demonstrative purposes. So let us conclude. Let us put everything together. Onde estão, meus amigos? Onde estão, meus amigos? So you pitch up at the end, like you're texting your friends to find them. Onde estão, meus amigos? So what do we have here? In grammatical terms, we have an adverb, we have a verb, we have a possessive, we have a noun. And in English, this is where are my friends? Just remember that in Portuguese, they skip the they ditch the do, and they make sure that everything agrees. There's agreement of gender and number in the community, which is the sentence. I like Brazilian Portuguese because it's soft. Remember, I speak my native tongue is Swati, which is also a very soft language. That's why I've chosen to go for something softer. Now, I mentioned a super casual, super chilled way of saying "hoi." This is the Brazilian term "cadê." I'm explaining this because in your language learning journey, you might encounter "cadê," and then you ask yourself, but Coach Muzie said it was Onde. How come now here it's "cadê"? Okay, let's start with the pronunciation. I'm sorry about that. I'm only human. When something like this happens, I tend to think, okay, let me record again. But hey, it's been a long journey. I'm not going to do it. Let us focus on "cadê." "Cadê," the first syllable is like car, and then the last syllable like day. "Cadê." But just be quick, because that's the most difficult thing in spoken Portuguese, keeping up with the speed. "Cadê?" You can't even hear that they've said it. So it's a contraction of "where is" in Portuguese, or "where are." So they contracted the two, smashing it into one thing to come up with "cadê." In fact, it's "onde está," but it is smooshed together to be "cadê." That's why when you're using "cadê" in a sentence, you do not need the verb, because it is in that contraction, in that word that is smooshed together. So say you're asking for your friends in an informal setting, you'll say "cadê meus amigos?" instead of Onde, estão, meus, amigos. No, you simply say Onde, meus, amigos. So, when you're chatting, Onde, that's what they do in Brazil. I don't want to dwell on where it comes from. But remember, factor in context. When it comes to informal settings, you're chatting with people you're familiar with, you can use Onde in Portuguese. Onde is the all-purpose where. Good for school essays, good for casual chats, but it always comes with a twin, the verb estar. It is also for non-questions like the place where I live, like I explained earlier. A cidade eu moro was the example. So, Onde is your where you're at in English, fast and fun. Whereas Onde is proper, like where are you? As a learner, I would advise that you stick to Onde when you are very unsure, but toss in Onde to feel like a local, especially if you're in Brazil. Don't use it in Mozambique, they won't follow what you're saying. So, my friend, that was our interrogative statement. Onde estão meus amigos? Where are my friends? I want you guys to come so that we can learn. You know, you don't have to come. You just have to log in on Zoom. I'll give you the login details and we learn Portuguese. We just get those creative juices in our minds. They're flowing. We just want to help our brains to create these new highways, these new passageways like the synapses and those dendritic tissues to develop and sprout in our brains. So guys, there's no reason whatsoever we should lose our brains and our cognition simply because we are too lazy to learn or expose ourselves to a learning experience like taking up Portuguese. And it's challenging. Many people have dropped Portuguese because of the verbs, the conjugation of the verbs. But it is something you have to do with your life. Challenge that brain of yours. It's an amazing tool that we've been given. So we have just done it with a sentence, but in class, we won't follow this method. In class, we are serious. We will try to start you on the journey to what is called language production. Or it starts with language reception and then language production. But because we want to start as soon as possible to express ourselves in class and use language one and stop using language one, which is English, and use language two, the one we're learning. So we will try to get you up to speed as soon as possible. So practice this as your homework, your first homework. If you'll be joining my class, practice the sounds. Onde estão meus amigos? You lift the voice at the end like we do in English. Try Onde for that relaxed vibe. Remember, you'll make mistake. My bathroom and tired person mix-ups, they are proof that mistakes are just funny stories waiting to happen. And we need humor in our lives. So the fact that you might make mistakes shouldn't stop you from attempting to learn something new. Keep practicing, laugh at the slip-ups, and listen to native speakers. I cannot stress this enough. I'm not a native. I'm just somebody who understands the Portuguese language, the Portuguese grammar. I'm still working on my fluency. But I encourage you to listen to native speakers, and we'll do our very best to get one native speaker with us in class from time to time to help us with the pronunciation. I know you guys will soon be killing it. Thanks for hanging out with me, and até a próxima. See you next time. Again, that is até a próxima.